Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Sorry, I just had to turn off YouTube because I was listening to myself and nobody wants to listen to me. If you have a look at the top of the screen there, you can see we now have the ability to put banners at the top of the screen, which we've not had before. So that's one of the reasons I'm using it. There is up for grabs today. One of these. Yeah, CM Labs baseball cap. Nice summer weight back end to it. CM Labs on the front. Yeah, all the way from Las Vegas, and will be gifted to one of you lot. All you have to do is do what it says on the screen. I'm going to say good. Somebody is saying hello to me from the Philippines. I can't actually pronounce their name, but he says, hi, I'm from the Philippines. It's 6 p.m. here, but good morning to you too. Thank you very much indeed. Well, good evening to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Yes, as you can see, there is a giveaway up for grabs today. You know what to do. It's in the chat. Who do we have in our midst? Gary Muirhead is here. I think he was here first of all. Dan Cullen is here as well. He's entered the competition. I'm going to check to make sure it's working. It is working. I'll keep that playing for a little bit longer. Got to be honest, still not feeling great. I've been chatting to Gary offline. I don't feel bad health-wise, but my sleep pattern since I came back from the States has been all over the place. I was downstairs at 3 o'clock last night trying to get some sleep on the sofa. Still not working. I have no idea what's going on with me, but that's the way it is. But Gary says looking a lot better today. Well, I am wearing my Italian. Is that all right? Does that look about right? Yeah, I've got my Italian summer scarf on. If I take Gary out the way, you can see it in all its glory. There you are. Yeah, there's a couple of shops over in Verona that I can't not go into, to be perfectly honest, when I get over to Italy. And yeah, I was there. Mark Whiting is here. Good morning, Mark. And don't forget the competition that's going on the top of the screen. Jim is here as well, saying morning peeps. And Mr. Hatcher is here, basking in the world sunshine. Ken, you too, have a look at the top of the screen, right about there. There you are. That's what's up for grabs. The CM Labs baseball cap. The cat cap and scarf looks good. Thank you, Dan. I'm making a bold fashion statement today. Not really. I really liked the scarf when I saw it. Yeah, you know how the Italians just waft a scarf about the person and just look cool. Well, I was hoping to borrow some of that. Clearly, it hasn't worked, but I've made an effort. Ken Hatcher saying exclusive. Just checking I've spelled it correctly. I have spelled it correctly as far as I can tell. But yes, keep those coming in, would you? Mind you, I got a load of hats. I actually saw a guy at ConExpo walking around with a big bucket. I mean, literally a big plastic bucket, not quite as big as a galvanized steel dustbin, but pretty close, full of hats. I would have thought a bag would have been better as a vehicle for them, but he decided to take a bucket with him, and he had damn near filled it. You should take up an Italian language education so you can be fluent. Yes, I should. I really should. It's one of my I wouldn't say bucket list, but I've always wanted to be able to play guitar, and I've always wanted to be able to speak Italian. Yeah, really would. I've got a few bits and pieces. I can do the buongiorno and the buonasera, and I can do all of that kind of stuff, but I can't do it I can order my favorite Italian drink, which is acqua e menta. That's minty water to you people. I'm going to say good morning to Nacho Reyes, who is calling in from Colombia. Saludos desde Colombia. Well, saludos desde England, I guess. I don't know. It's another language I don't speak. Anywho, people, we've got a packed show for you today. Today's morning monologue is kind of a reaction to the conversation we were having yesterday. And I'll be getting to that, obviously, but I've also working on tomorrow's. A bit bored yesterday afternoon, and was reading through some old documentation. And I was shocked. And I know that's something that why is why are you typing exclusive, Ken? You're supposed to be typing CM. Yeah, I was reading through some documentation from the Construction Industry Training Board, which I tend not to do, to be perfectly honest with you. But I was reading through that, and the findings within it were shocking. Seriously, and I know that sounds like journalistic license. It's a thing that us journalists say to get you all excited and interesting. It wasn't. It was genuinely shocking. I mean, I think we know all about the mental health crisis and health and safety crisis. I think we know all about all of that old nonsense. But this, I'll tell you more about it tomorrow. But there is a factor now which is pervasive in the country, but is becoming even more pervasive in this industry, and it is called working homelessness. In other words, you've got a full-time job, but you have no home to go to. Yeah. That's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. So, just to bring you up to speed, I can tell you now that we've got Ken straight, we've got 4 entries for the CM Labs competition today. Steve Williamson, not taken my Trimble cap off my head. Well, see, I probably should have signed it for you and devalued it enormously. Yeah, Gary, I was planning to talk about this. I put in the WhatsApp group yesterday that Rockback is soon to be no more. It was always a bit of a weird one for me, if I'm being completely honest. Obviously, Rockback owned it's the former Terex trucks, based up in Motherwell, in Gary's part of the world, but owned by Volvo. And while Volvo have rejuvenated their ADT line, Rockback basically went away for a little bit. Not as Rockback, they went away as Terex trucks. They were reborn as Rockback. And as far as I could tell, basically all they'd done was update the paint job. They hadn't actually made any notable difference to the machines themselves, which I think was a mistake. And I do wonder what the problem was. Was it the fact that the Rockback or the Terex as was not up to modern standards? Not entirely sure that's the case. Was Volvo diverting most of its R&D investment into its own range of trucks? Maybe. But I have to say we were a little surprised when we were putting together our list of people we needed to visit at ConExpo. One of the companies we checked for was Rockback, and they weren't there. I wouldn't say it rang alarm bells, but it was a surprise. It was a surprise. So when the announcement came yesterday that Volvo is going to shut up shop for Rockback, can't say it shocked me an enormous amount. Bad news, obviously, for the workforce there, and I do think the MD there, whose name has completely slipped my mind, I think he's done a great job. I think he's really pushed it or tried to push it ahead. But yeah, as Steve has said there, are there much Rockback trucks around though? I've not seen any up here. It's all Volvo or Belt. Yeah. Listen, if I were coming into the construction equipment market as a manufacturer, I wouldn't want to be in skid steers because Bobcat, and I wouldn't want to be in ADTs because Volvo. And even when you look beyond Volvo, Bell and Caterpillar and Komatsu, there's some really, really stiff competition there. And maybe, just maybe, our friends at Rockback weren't up to the job. Andy Darvell has just joined us as well. Says, morning, everyone. Good morning to you as well. Looks like I've got long hair. Hang on a minute. Let me sort that out. Can't be having that. Does look a bit untidy. That's better. That's better. How many jobs at stake? That wasn't in the announcement that I saw. I'm sure that will come out in the fullness of time, but it wasn't in the announcement that I saw. Demtech BV just joined us over on Instagram, which is good news. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Fine attachments from the folks at Demtech. Gary says, I feel sorry for all the talented people who will now have to start looking for new employment. My guess and my hope is that some of them will be moved over from the Rockback production line to Volvo. I mean, as you say, there are some very smart people there. I'd like to think some of them will find a new home. Just a damn shame. I just, which is a weird thing to say about an ADT manufacturer, I never got the impression that Rockback really gained traction. There was a bit of a song and dance at the point that they were launched about it. You know, its new name, it's Rockback, and it all sounded very exciting, but then not much. Not much. As I say, sad news. Mick Norton is here as well, as is Chris Ford. Morning, gang. One of those days I'll be on time. Goodbye, Rockback. Yeah, goodbye, Rockback indeed. Did Volvo just buy it to close it down? Less competition? I'd be very surprised if they'd done that, to be honest. I mean, ADT wise, Volvo are far and away the market leader. It's not like they need to buy market share, I wouldn't have thought. Who knows? Gary, your machine has an operator from Manchester operating it. Ah, yes. Gary's former machine has travelled all the way down to, is it Plymouth? And is now being operated by somebody else. Steve Williamson. Steve, stick around for today's morning monologue because you inspired it. He's away for 4 days in April to North Carolina, getting to stay in his beach house. It's an unusual job interview destination. It is, but good luck, mate. Good luck. It's an opportunity of a lifetime. It really is, as far as I'm concerned. Apparently, they're going to make some Volvo stuff now. Well, I think they're already doing that. And Mick has just joined the competition. Again, I'm going to point it out, top of the screen there, if you haven't done so already. Didn't really know anything about Rockback. Did Volvo start them or buy them? No, it was basically Terex trucks kind of faded into the background and then was brought back, not as Terex, but as Rockback. And it was part of the Volvo group. That's the way it worked. Steve Williamson, and some of the best looking machines. Yes, he does. I don't want to say his name out loud, but yes, he does. Jim Turner, when I can get the chat to work. When a company owns multiple firms of the same style, each arm has to offer something different to the market. Volvo badge trucks for cutting edge machines and the other for base model, no mod cons, cheap and cheerful type. My feeling is that was kind of the play that they were doing. Bit like the Hyundai Develon or Hyundai Doosan thing. I think that was the play they were going for. But if you're in the market for an ADT, does down and dirty really cut it? I have a question mark over that. Gary says, I'm on a Volvo ECR 145 14-ton till the new EC400 arrives. Getting ready to flex your muscles. And Mark Whiting has just joined the competition, which I can tell you brings us to, 7 entries this morning. We'll be calling that a bit later in the show. But first, shall we crack on? I think we probably should because we do have plenty to get through. Let's have a bit of this. It is Wednesday, the 18th of March. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming, the authentic voice of the global demolition industry. In today's show, John Deere goes all in on its new excavators, keeping the world's beaches clean with a unique machine from Beach Tech. Dynapac goes large, and we have an exclusive interview with my new best friend, Matteo Pasinato, the driving force behind the SaMoTeR exhibition. Plus, in today's morning monologue, what keeps us here? What keeps us here? I do want to say very quickly, Mercy J.D. Johnston has just entered the competition. Don't know where you're watching from, but welcome. Steve Williamson says, these trucks go through some hell of a battering. I'd go for a solid truck rather than go for the cheaper, then have multiple problems. There's a Doosan ADT up this way, constantly broken. It's just hanging now as they're not great resale. Yeah. If you're using an ADT properly, you are putting in 10-hour day shifts on a regular basis, constant up and down, rolling, and all of the things that goes on with an ADT. Yeah, there are places in this industry where you can skimp. I wouldn't say an ADT is one of them. What happens to all the customers who's invested in the Rockback brand just to be left high and dry? They are maintaining parts and service supply, apparently. I mean, for the foreseeable future. How much coverage do they have to offer? Another 4 or 5 years, maybe? I don't actually know the answer to that. If you're an owner-operator, yes, a base model does cut it. More longevity means more profit from each purchase. It does, so long as the damn thing's running. That's all I would say. It would absolutely fine if you can keep the thing on the road or off the road, if you take my meaning. Let's have a bit of this, and then we'll talk John Deere.
News, debate, and a monologue spark from Mark's bright morning to the late night park. Grab your coffee, fire up the day. Start your day the demolition way.
I pressed the wrong button, but I didn't want to stop it. I haven't heard that for ages. Wasn't that video rubbish? I will get round to changing that one of these days. Anyway, John Deere. John Deere talked about the fact that they are they have their own range of excavators. They showed them with some pride at ConExpo just a few weeks ago, and they, according to the blurb, they are going all in on excavators.
What this does is it's going to allow us to support small excavators like we've never been able to before.
Yeah, we'll bring you that video at some point in the not too distant future. Steve Williamson saying that Mechalac with the Hoover is one expensive Hoover. You'd never in a million years see that here, but great bit of kit. He also says AI gone mad. Yeah, that video that with the Demolition song playing around one evening, and I to be honest, I was embarrassed and yet amused by the way that the person in it walks. clearly designed by somebody that's never seen an actual human walking. Jim Turner going back to mod cons. Mod cons means touchscreens, plush interiors, and drive raids, not mechanical skimping. Fair comment. Andy Darvell is being very forgiving. He says, I like your AI digger dozer scraping the floor. Yeah, what the hell was that? Look at the trucks, says Steve. Gary Muirhead, we've got 10 brand new Develon trucks and have had loads of trouble with them. So we've now ordered 10 new Volvo A30 and 2 of them have arrived this week. Really nice truck. Listen, I'm as big a fan of Develon as the next man, but if I were investing my own money in an ADT, I'd have gone Volvo in the first place. Just saying. Why don't they add proper seats like they do in ADT trucks into machines as multifunctional movements? Last few machines I've been on, seats are terrible, like sitting on a plank. Trone seats? Not sure what trone seats are. Dan is still entering the competition. Let me just check how the competition is going. I think we're at 7, maybe more now. Let's have a very quick look. No, we've got 8 entries now. Yeah, well done, everyone. I can turn that off now, can't I? Probably. I think we've probably got enough entries with that. There we are. That's much tidier. What have we got here? Gary says SER, who've hired a lot of our kit, said the Liebherr dump truck have been faultless. Really impressed with them. I have to say, I've driven the T230. I couldn't remember the name of it for a second there. I've driven it a few times. Really is very, very good. Really is very, very good indeed. Steve says, try the new Volvo ADTs. They are as comfy as hell. Yes, they are. Yeah, listen, I don't think Volvo need me telling anyone how good their ADTs are. I think the market knows that. 5-year warranty, and Nigel, I'll tell you, they are the best holders on the market. Not sure what Nigel, Nigel? I don't know. I don't know what that is. Anyway, let's crack on, shall we? Let's move on with our next video because we're doing something a bit weird after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Obviously, ConExpo was packed to the rafters with all of the machines you'd expect to see there. Skid steers, wheel loaders, excavators, dump trucks, dozers, graders, all of the usual, which I was very grateful of. But there was also a few eclectic machines there, and we called up with one of them. This is this is Beach Tech, and if you go on holiday this year and find that your beach is spotlessly clean, it might be because of one of these.
Hi, my name is Evan Huckabee. I'm with Beach Tech. We're at ConExpo 2026, and behind me is a Beach Tech 5500. Beach Tech is a mobile sifting machine, and we also sell a self-propelled unit. This unit here is a 75 horsepower Deutz self-contained, so people who don't want a tractor and a tow behind, they have the option of buying an all-in-one machine. There's a front pickup blade down at the bottom, and what that does is actually penetrates the sand. This unit down to 6 inches. Some units go down to 12 inches. And what it does is that pickup blade, as it goes down into the sand, it picks up sand and material, puts it on a screen, shakes out the clean sand, and all the unwanted debris goes into a hopper. You'll find coins, diamond rings, watches, but that's sometimes a bonus. Most of the time, what we're looking for is bottle caps, cigarette butts, broken glass, dangerous objects that could hurt beach patrons. And we try to touch every beach we can here in North America and the Great Lakes. I always tell people, do you want your beach to look clean, or do you want it to actually be clean? And what I mean by that is, if you truly want to sift your beach and get a good result, you're going to take it low and slow and get all that debris and material out. Most of our beaches in Southern California, South Florida, they have departments, beach operations departments, and their job every day is to go out and make sure that the coastline is beautiful for their beach patrons.
Jim, you are thinking exactly the same as I was. I actually asked our friend there about that. I bet they get some good funds doing that job. I said precisely that, and he said, oh yeah, lots of money, watches, rings, jewelry, all manner of stuff. Unfortunately, mixed in with that, there are often things like syringes and what have you, which not quite the same. But yeah, absolutely. Now, Dan says, Mark, you missed a previous message to Gary on the phone holder to get. I cannot see that message. I'm looking. And I am not seeing that message at all, Dan. No, I'm pretty much back to the beginning of the show, and I'm not seeing that message at all. Not sure what happened there. The Beach Tech that penetrates 12 inches, they should call it Ron Jeremy. Yes, they should. Listen, I realise he's been accused of some very unpleasant things, but is anybody else feeling slightly sorry for the hedgehog? Whiling away his time in prison, too ill to face trial for his misdemeanours. Seems like a sad way to end what was surely a pretty glorious existence. Sorry, state of affairs. Dan says, that reminds me of a milk float. Yeah, a little bit. What do we got here? Dan says, okay, if you want to post that thing about the phone holder again, Dan, please do, and I'll be first to put it on screen. While you're doing that, let me do this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
To me, this strikes me as beautifully British, right? So I've just shown you that Beach Tech machine, and its ability to clean beaches. And being the Brits that we are, we're now listing places where it won't work. Mick Norton says sandy beaches only, not Chesil Beach. And Jim Turner says definitely wouldn't see it on at West Bay. No. Yeah, here's an idea. Wait a second, let me find an obstacle. Apparently they do quite a lot of those down in Florida, down the Florida Keys. Ken Hatcher, you'll know what the Florida Keys look like. Anyway, let's crack on, shall we? Dynapac were out in force at Con Expo as well. And they brought something big to the party. It looks like this. Dan, I think I've spotted the problem with your talk about phone mounts. When you were sharing details of your recommended phone mount, did you put a link, like a URL link in your post? Because I've just had 2 messages come through. The first one says, as can give you 20% off as well. And then the second one says, they're a lot better than RAM mount and 5 years warranty. That's how good they are. But there's nothing before that. And I wonder if it's YouTube blocking links. If that's the case, send it to Gary via the WhatsApp group. That's probably easier. And Dan says, Jim, if you're looking to, let me know. If YouTube is being silly, playing silly buggers with links, do it through the WhatsApp group. That's probably going to be the easy answer. I don't know why they're doing that, but it's YouTube. Law unto themselves, bit like all the other social media platforms. We've got one more video for you. So brush up on your Italian, because I'll be back after this. Yeah, I think people are sorting themselves out with that that whole phone mount business. So on to SaMoTeR. SaMoTeR is about 6 weeks away, and there's a guy behind it. He is the driving force, basically. He's the general manager of Verona Fieri and also the general manager of the SaMoTeR exhibition itself. His name is Matteo Pasinato. I met him last week, and I pointed a camera at him, and this is what he had to say.
It's the first time for me in SaMoTeR. I took this responsibility with a great proud, because tradition of SaMoTeR for Verona Fiere and also for all the construction industry in Italy and all the Mediterranean area. We have 520 exhibitors just registered in the event. 50,000 square meters outdoor indoor area. We will expect about 60,000 visitors all over Italy, also many international markets, such as East Europe, North Europe, Caucasic area, North Africa as well, and also North America, Canada and USA. So we invite all visitors, all entrepreneurs to come to SaMoTeR from 6 to 9 May 2026. SaMoTeR will be a platform not only for the technologies, but also to comparing all the digitalization that is coming in the future of this sector. Earth moving, but also lifting, drilling, crush and demolition, quarry and site vehicles, also logistics. We have a great show inside SaMoTeR, the digital construction site. Live work, a show where there is many focus, so the entrepreneurs could compare the different technologies. The focus is for sure digitalization, automation, job site safety, and also sustainability. So we want to present in SaMoTeR really a great technology, but also to touch these new tools and to prove them before buy them.
Thanks for that, Matteo. Looking forward to seeing you in about 6 weeks' time. Before we go on to the morning monologue, let's resolve the whole matter of today's giveaway. Let me put this up on the screen. Can I change my look a little bit? Yeah, that's slightly better. As you can see, we've had 8 entries. Andy Darville said, "What an accent!" Funnily enough, he actually said to me, "I'm sorry, my English is not that good." I said to him, as I always say, "Better than my Italian." So yeah, we got by. Mike Wolf, good morning, Mike. Visiting SaMoTeR is also a good excuse for visiting Verona. Beautiful city with amazing history. And don't forget the Italian food and wine too. Mike, and hang on a minute, let me just get that out of the way. And the clothing too. That comes, I've got a lovely pair of shoes I picked up in Verona last week as well. Won't bore you with that right now. But yeah, it is a fantastic city. In the middle of the town square there's a Roman amphitheatre. It was actually the host venue for the closing ceremony of this year's Winter Olympics. 2,000 odd years old Roman amphitheatre. That's right there. The statue of Juliet from Romeo and Juliet, just up the way there. The balcony's there as well. One of the slightly odd things, and I will do the draw in a moment. You are encouraged that there is like a bronze or kind of gold statue of Juliet there, and apparently, if you hold her right breast, it will bestow upon you good luck. I'm not really superstitious, so I wouldn't have gone in for it anyway. But apparently, I must admit, I read it at school and I've not read it since, but apparently in Romeo and Juliet, it's clearly stated that she was not yet 14. Not entirely sure I'm comfortable, even though it's in statue form, not entirely sure I'm comfortable with fondling the right breast of a 13-year-old girl. I let that one pass. I was much happier in the clothes shops. Anyway, people, let's roll this thing, shall we? And find out who has won the CM Labs hat. Mr. Mick Norton, would you Adam and Eve it? Mick Norton, you have got yourself a CM Labs hat. Now, Mick, just to be safe, can you probably via LinkedIn, because that's where we do most of our talking. If you could, please remind me of your address. I'm sure I've got it here somewhere, but just to be on the safe side. But congratulations, you are now the proud owner of a CM Labs hat. We're going to be doing another one tomorrow. Bear with me a second. Tomorrow's hat of choice will be that one. You know, I've got the Korean version, which I thought was really cool. But we've got an English language version as well. That will be up for grabs tomorrow. So if anyone wants to win that, make sure you're here on the morrow. Andy Thornton, well, you obviously missed all of the dancing girls and the free money. You also missed a hat giveaway, but we're doing another one tomorrow. So don't fret about it. We have another one to come. Don't you worry. Dan says that I'm going to try to get Hillhead this year. I must have a chat with Hitachi and Sani. I'm assuming they're both there. I must admit, I haven't checked the exhibitors list, but I would assume both will be present and correct. Anyway, people, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, do please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. I hope to see you again very soon. But if you... but if you do have the time and the inclination, I'll be back after this. The sky is the colour of a bruise. The air on site is thick with a heady cocktail of pulverised concrete, diesel fumes, and the kind of damp cold that settles in your marrow and stays there until July. You stand there, high vis faded to a dull mustard, sight boots heavy, and that familiar question begins to circulate through your mind. What keeps us here? It isn't the prestige, let's be honest, to the man in the suit hurrying past the hoarding or the client signing off on the next project. You're invisible. You're not seen as a skilled operator of machinery. You're seen as an expendable resource. You're a line item on a spreadsheet, a flickering light that can be switched off the moment workloads dip or the weather turns. This industry is a meat grinder. It's willing to sacrifice your knees, your back, and the very air in your lungs. In return, it offers the precarious security of a 0 hours culture. We operate in a landscape where the word asset is reserved for the plant and equipment, but never for the people that operate them. Your opinion, don't make me laugh, in an industry beset with genuine life-altering hazards, those at the coalface are the last to be consulted. Decisions are made in air-conditioned offices by people who haven't set foot on site in a decade, if ever. We're constantly told we're unskilled or semi-skilled, a convenient lie used to keep wages suppressed and representation thin. We work in the rain, the sleet, and the blinding dust, underpaid for the risk we take and undervalued for the expertise we bring. There is no work-life balance here. There's only the work, the commute, and the exhausted collapse into sleep before the alarm screams again at 5 a.m. We're treated as pick-up, put-down commodities. If the workload dictates, you're the hero of the hour. If the funding stalls, you're out the gate. Your proven skills are questioned at every turn by a box-ticking bureaucracy that cares more about the colour of your card than the quality of your work. So as the rain drips off the brim of your hard hat, you ask yourself, what keeps us here? What keeps us here? This time, the question isn't about the site. It isn't about the foreman's attitude or the lack of a decent pension. It's about the very ground we stand on. We're told that the UK is a global leader, a titan of industry and culture. But look around. Look at the reality of life in Britain in 2026. If you have a UK demolition and construction qualification, you're holding a golden ticket. You're a person of value in the global market. In Western Australia, they bite your hand off for your experience. In Canada or the US, your unskilled hands will be rewarded with a standard of living that feels like a fever dream compared to this. There, you're a specialist. There, the pay reflects the skills you bring. And yet we stay. We stay in a country where the standard of living is falling through the floor while the cost of living screams towards the ceiling. We live in a nation that's forgotten how to look after its own. It's a staggering and shameful indictment of our society that we have old people forced to sit in the dark because they can't afford both a hot meal and a warm radiator. Our infrastructure is a joke told in slow motion. Our roads are a lunar landscape of potholes, and our rail network is a vanity project for the wealthy. It's a literal mathematical absurdity, and it can cost more to take a train from London to Glasgow than it does to board a plane and fly across the Atlantic to Los Angeles. We're a captive audience in a crumbling theatre, paying premium prices for a seat that's falling apart. The social contract hasn't just been torn up, it's been put through an industrial shredder. We work ourselves to the bone to pay for rents we can't afford and mortgages that feel like nooses. We contribute to a system that views the working class as a demographic to be managed rather than a community to be served. So why do we remain? Is it a misplaced sense of loyalty to a flag that doesn't fly for us? Is it the fear of the unknown or the exhaustion that prevents us from even looking at a map? We have the skills to build a life anywhere in the world. We have the toughness to survive in the harshest environments. We have the toughness to survive in the harshest environments on the planet. We're highly valued everywhere else, yet we remain in a place that treats us as an inconvenience. So I'll ask you one last time. As you look at your payslip, as you look at your heating bill, and as you look at your decaying streets of the town you call home, what keeps us here? There you are. Inspired by yesterday's conversation with Mr. Williamson. Feeling suitably inspired after that. What keeps you here? Let me know. Delighted to win the draw for my new bonnet. Oh, wouldn't that be fantastic? Give away a bonnet. I don't even know where one would go about getting a bonnet, but yeah, Mick, I promise you, if I see a bonnet in a shop, your name's on it, my friend. Dan says, very good point. Can anyone actually say what does keep us in the UK? Construction jobs to be treated like shit, thrown to the dogs at a moment's notice. Yeah, why? Steve, I mean, you've seen it up close, and I'm not going to ask you to reveal the secrets of your possible migration. But if you are a skilled operator here, even if you're really good, you're basically viewed as a seat warmer. You go to America, you go to Australia, you go to New Zealand, you go to Canada, you're a tradesman, you're a craftsman, you're a respected, skilled worker. Bearing in mind how easy it is, regardless of Brexit, bearing in mind how easily it is to move around the world, and the fact that certain parts of the world, for example, Australia, they are constantly on the lookout for operators, good machine operators. Think about the standard of living there. Think about the beach lifestyle and the barbecues and the sunshine, and try not to concentrate too much on the spiders, the snakes and the sharks. Ignore that. Imagine what you could have. Better wages, better standard of living, better prospects, and yet here we remain. And it's not like language is a barrier. I mean, I would like nothing more than to go and live for a year and then probably more in Italy. Language would be a barrier. I'm sure I could get by. I'd get by when I'm traveling there. So I probably would get by, but it's an obstacle. That obstacle doesn't exist in America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia. Dan says there's no respect in this industry from man to man on ground or from directors to working men. They only see you as a number. Yeah. Yeah. So why do you remain, Dan? He says, what keeps me here is keeping a roof over my head and paying for my travels. And I have to move around to keep myself in work and prove it. Yeah, well, see, there's the thing. I mean, I don't know. I reckon you've been on this show now, Dan, for 5.5 years. I mean, I know you were fairly early doors. So, I mean, we've been going for 6 years. Let's say you've been here the whole 6 years. How many employers do you reckon you've had in that time? 10? 20? More? And I know it's how you live your life. And I'm not here to decry that in any way, shape, or form. But every time a project comes to an end, or every time you decide that you can't stomach that job any longer, you have that immediate uncertainty of where is the next pay packet coming from. And I know, I don't think you've ever been out of work for more than a couple of days. But what if you could go? Listen, the last thing I want to do is to encourage my viewers to go and live somewhere else because it would destroy this show. But surely, if you could give up that constant search for the next job and swap that for permanent employment somewhere that will treat you with the respect that you quite clearly deserve, is that not better? Jim Turner says, the missus refusing to emigrate to New Zealand keeps me here. That would do it. Can be done. Getting long-term local work is difficult. Yeah. And yet, as I say, overseas, and I know the way that those jobs are kind of sold. Western Australia, for example, they'll have a demolition job taking down, an old mine or something like that. And they don't look for operators for a week or 2 weeks or 3 months. They look for 4 years because that's how long the project will last. Personally, job security together with all of the benefits of working somewhere like that, I'd be tempted. Mick Norton says, cultural bias filters into pay, respect, and how society treats skilled labour here in the UK. Yeah, it does. And I also, part of the thing I'm writing about for tomorrow's show is about this notion of working homelessness. And apparently it's not uncommon. I wouldn't say it's common, but it's not uncommon. But when you actually read into it, your traditional white Caucasian British, and I use the term British in its broadest sense, British worker is susceptible to it. But if you are an ethnic minority, particularly if you happen to be from Bangladesh, apparently, if you are a Bangladeshi, you're more likely to find yourself in that position as well. I'm going to say good morning to, I can't pronounce the name, but somebody has just said Salam or Shalom, Uzbekistan. Somebody is watching this show from Uzbekistan. My friend, thank you for being here, and welcome. I wish I could communicate in your native tongue, but all I can say is good morning all the way to Uzbekistan. Dan says, I've had upwards of 50 employers in the last 5 years. Is that a sensible way to live your life? Maybe I'm just hard to get along with, but one of the things I always struggled with, and I didn't change jobs much. Most of my job changes were kind of upward progressions within the same organization. But on the occasions that I actually changed companies or changed departments and had to work with new people, I found that quite hard. Probably not as hard as the people I was working with, but I found that quite hard, quite stressful. Getting to know other people and all of that kind of thing. If I could avoid that, I would. If I was offered the chance of working for 12 different companies in the next 12 months or just one, I'd take the just one every single day of the week. Dan says hard to get local work, and then the rates are the next thing. again, look overseas. But please don't leave because I need the viewers. It doesn't look good with subcontractors constantly squeezed, no investment for skilled workers, shrunken training budgets, and stagnant day rates. No, absolutely. We were talking yesterday about the ongoing war in Iran and the likely impact of that on fuel prices. And I'll predict it now because I'm saying I'm predicting it. I don't need to predict it because this is how it plays out every time the industry gets hit by some kind of economic crisis. The first thing to go will be advertising and marketing. If there's a construction and demolition company who is having to pay more for their fuel, the first thing they'll cut will be advertising and marketing. Second thing they'll cut will be training, which obviously has a knock-on effect in terms of safety and that kind of thing. And then the third thing, which is precisely what we're talking about here, the third thing they will cut is manpower. At no point will any construction company say, oh, we're paying £4 million a year to our managing director. We'll halve that. That will never fucking happen. What they would do is they will cut their workforce. That's exactly what will happen. Chris Ford says, oh, well, missed that. I have to pay more attention, not answer the phone. Oh, you missed a corker today, Chris, but you can listen to it on catch up if you choose to. Here, when they say long term, that's a 2-week job hire or 4 weeks, not 6 months. Plus, I had 3 jobs that lasted more than 6 months, all a few weeks or 3 months. It can be stressful as I get to work with some complete imbeciles, either high on drugs or hungover from the night before. Yeah. I think the other thing, I'm when you see some of the projects, I mean, like Liberty Industrial doing their work over in Australia on these sort of remote sites, they basically set up a little town. You've got all mod cons there, got somewhere to stay, somewhere to put your head down at night, comfortable and all that kind of thing. You've got all your shopping taken care of. It's all very, very self-contained and very, very high standard. Whereas here, well, as you'll hear tomorrow, we're going to be talking about working homelessness. I don't understand why these construction companies do a drugs and alcohol test. I find that most of them do a drugs and alcohol test because they're required to, and they don't keep it up because they're very deeply concerned that if they do keep it up, they will uncover a hornet's nest, a Pandora's box of drug and alcohol abuse among their workforce. And then where will they be? I think that's the absolute truth of it. It was like the Donald Trump take on COVID. If we stop testing, we'll find less cases. Precisely the same with this. If we don't do drug and alcohol testing, we won't find cases of drug and alcohol abuse. Yeah. Andy Thornton says, worse than absenteeism is presenteeism, putting people at risk. Yeah, and that, funnily enough, I mean, I don't want to give too much away about tomorrow's show, but we are talking about this notion of working homelessness and people kind of sleeping in vehicles, sleeping in tents, effectively sleeping rough because they can't afford rent or a mortgage or whatever it might be. I think that's a big enough issue in itself, and that's why I want to cover it tomorrow. But also, when you think about that, if you've bedded down in a car overnight, which I've done for reasons I won't bore you with, but I've done it on occasions, you don't get a great night's sleep. Now, for me, it was wake up in the morning, go and ask a few questions, point a camera at somebody, then go back home again. Not a big deal. If I'm operating some heavy equipment, I'd quite like to think that I had my wits about me, that I'd had a decent 7-8 hours sleep that night. We've spoken at length in the past about the negative impact of fatigue and how it can replicate the basically drug and alcohol levels. So if you're sleeping in your car, getting out of your car, yawning a bit, and then getting behind the levers of an excavator, you're quite potentially a danger to yourself and to your colleagues and to passers-by as well. We will get onto that, but my biggest question really is, what does it say about an industry that is reporting huge profits, and yet we have some of its workers can't actually put a roof over their own head? We'll come to that tomorrow. Mick Norton says, in countries like Germany, Switzerland, and Japan, craftsman status is prestigious, with skilled trades seen as professions, not manual labour, as is often the case in the UK. Yeah, think about that. And I realise this is a real tangential move, but you think about sushi chefs in Japan. Apparently, and I can't remember the exact figures, but I think you have to study for something like 6 years before you're even allowed to handle a knife. Yeah. You work alongside your mentor, who is a master craftsman in the art of sushi, who will show you how to cut, where to cut, what to cut, and so on down like that, for years and years and years before eventually you are handed a knife and said, okay, now start to practice. How is that any different to what we do here? And I do find it, even what I do for a living, I think the way that I'm received is very different overseas. Last week, I showed you Matteo from SaMoTeR earlier on, and I'd been invited to go to Verona. I didn't need asking twice. It's a fantastic place. So I went over there, camera in hand, ready to do my job, and he thanked me for going. It was almost like I'd honoured him with my presence. He clearly doesn't know me particularly well, but his attitude to my arrival was, you came from the UK to here? Thank you so much. Whereas here, I generally get greeted with, what do you want? It's different, isn't it? Dan says, do you know in Germany, if you want to drain your land, you have to put in a permit and planning permission to dig your drain, as it's classed as environmental impact? I did not know that, but thank you. Andy, Dan says, I think me, you and Mark should meet for a coffee. Hey, listen, you had me at coffee. Let's have a look. As Guy said here the other day, there were 30 men came to get a job. 5 made it through the drug and alcohol test. The rest were told they had to get a taxi off the site, and the company had to send low loaders to pick up their vans. 5 out of 30 were clean. That's not a great average, people, is it? Mike Wolf says, blimey, Mike, you can tell he's a writer. There's pages of this. Hang on a minute. Many years ago, I visited a sand and gravel quarry near Ipswich as the firm had just bought a new ADT, the first of its kind in the UK. The operator liked the ADT and said it was very comfortable. The site also had an RB dragliner, used it to open up the site. The guy operating this was from a different generation. He slept in a sleeping bag in the back of the machine beside the engine every night, had his meals in the local pub where he also washed. At the weekend, he'd drive back home, and I don't know what happens after that. But I'm interested. Mike, if you can send me the rest of that, I'd love to hear about that, because it does very much play into the thing that I'm talking about tomorrow. And listen, I will mention this tomorrow. I'm very well aware of the fact that some people are paid an accommodation allowance. You can stay in digs up to a value of whatever it is, 40 quid a night or whatever it might be. Quite where you find a £40 a night hotel or B&B, I have no idea, but that's what you're paid. And some people choose to pocket that rather than stay in digs, sleep in their car, pocket the difference. I understand that. What I'm talking about tomorrow goes beyond that. Germany generally pays 20 to 40% higher for equivalent UK skill levels. There you go. Andy says, you too, Dan, I'm up for coffee. Is this a meeting of minds, or are we just all desperate for caffeine? I'm just desperate for caffeine, but I daren't touch it. My sleep is so up the creek at the moment. I can't bring myself to touch coffee because, frankly, I'm never going to sleep again at this rate. Yes, some Saturday when Mark is free. Well, let's get the next couple of weeks out of the way, because I've got a shit ton on. And Dan says, be nice to meet you, Andy. Yeah, absolutely. Right, people. I know we've got people going out the door. Who was that going out the door? There you are. Dan is going out the door. Have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe and be happy. I will do my level best. I'm going to draw a line in the sand under this facade of a show. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about all things working homeless and other stuff as well. We've got a packed show as well. I've already seen the content for tomorrow's show. If you thought today was good, tomorrow's about the same. I'm making no promises. Till then, everybody, have a fantastic day. Before I go, Jim says this: all the more reason to make machine tickets the same rating as a UK driving license. Then drug to boozed up operators will get points, fines, or bans from operating and driving on the roads too. As in so many things. Music, beards, this, I'm with Jim. Andy says, cheers all. Dan says, stay safe, happy. Tell your loved ones you love them. I'm going to go and do that right now. That will freak them out. I'll see you tomorrow, people. Have a good one. Don't forget, tomorrow, that's up for grabs. Mick Norton, send me your address. Goodbye, everyone.